G'day folks, what we've got here is a slightly different approach to magnetic uncoupling using chains instead of staples or bits of wire, and I'll show you what we need to get this sort of setup going. First of all, I like to work with jigs, so I've set up a test track here which is about 450 mils long. It's just standard Pico Code 100 track on a bit of wood there. And we'll need a panel pin, and you can see I've got one there which is about 17 mils long, and what we do is cut the head off that and bend it over at a right angle, and that will be inserted into the track eventually. We also need some standard electrical cable with the multi-strand type wire inside, and I cut a length of that which is about 200 mils. Then strip the wire so you release all the individual strands. Now the chain I'm using is quite small, and as you can see here, one link is approximately 3 millimeters long. However, when you compare it to the chain that I used for the 3-link couplings, it's considerably smaller, and this was bought as an accident or arrived as an accident, and now I've found a use for it. But if you look at it closely there, 2 links is just of the black chain is just slightly longer than 1 link of the copper chain, so it's very small. And we'll be using neodymium magnets. This one is 15 millimeters long. It's an N50. It's also 3 millimeters wide on the flat and 2 millimeters wide on its edge. We'll also be using some fridge magnet. This was a photographic sort of setup where you can print a photograph on the fridge magnet and whack it on your fridge. However, the paper's gone off on these, but I'm using it for this purpose. It's just standard fridge magnet paper, and I cut it into strips 2 millimeters wide and peel the paper off, which reveals a matte surface as opposed to the shiny surface you've got on the other side, and that will be a cover for the magnets. I need to drill a hole in the coupling, so we've got a 1 millimeter drill bit which is done by hand with a pin vise. Now the next stage is to put that panel pin into a sleeper on the end of the track, and it's set down fairly low and in the center, of course, and you can see it's only just about, the bottom of it's just about rail height. Now we drill the hole in the center of the coupling next to where the coupling hook is mounted, and then we remove 2 links of chain, and I've put those on the pin vise and put the pin vise into a desktop vise. It just makes it easier to work with because we need to thread a bit of the wire through the outer link there, like so. And then we just tie 2 standard knots in the wire to secure the wire to the chain and snip off the excess. And then we've got our copper wire fitted to the chain. Then take the copper wire and thread it through the hole in the coupling. And now we take it to the track and hook the little link over the panel pin, which is set into the track there, and then pull the wire so that it brings the chain up into the vertical position, and you're holding the wagon while you're doing this. And then drag the wire along the top of the coupling and underneath the coupling hook and turn it at a right angle. Something like this. This is basically to set up the position for the chain. Now remove it from the jig and hold the drop down hook with your fingers so that the coupling hook doesn't rise up, and wrap the wire around the coupling hook about 2.5 times, and then snip off the excess, and you should finish up with something that looks like that. And the copper wire should sit behind the bar on the front of the coupling. It shouldn't sit on top of the bar, it should sit behind the bar, so you might have to push it back a little bit and just fold the cut end over, but it should look something like that. Of course, when the wire is painted black, it practically disappears. Now, to set the track up, I've taken 2 of the cutting wheels, the Dremel cutting wheels, number 409, and I've mounted 2 of those together on the shaft for the Dremel. So we've got 2 sandwiched on there, and that I'll use that to cut the sleepers, and so I can set the magnets into the sleepers. And the magnets need to be set up end to end, so if you lay them down flat like that, they'll only sit one way, so just get that right before you start trying to put them in. And you can see a comparison there with a standard uncoupling ramp and the 3 that I'm using on 3 magnets I'm using on the left there. There's a considerable difference in size. So I need to cut 6 sleepers, and I use the Dremel to do that with the double cutting wheel setup. Just make sure you do it accurately along the middle of the sleepers. And then the magnets can be set in on their edges in place and glued into place. I've used super glue here. And then the cover strip can just sit over the top. It's magnetic, so it sits on there quite easily. And then we do a test to see if the system works. And the wagon on the right is an earlier test which was done with 1 chain link, so it doesn't look as pretty as the one on the left. And if you have trouble seeing your uncoupling areas, you can always paint some of the strip a bright colour to highlight where it is. Colour's up to you, and it's easily removable, or you can, if you want to use it for kids, and later on you want to use it for yourself, you can just put a plain strip back on. Right folks, now we can do some actual testing, and as I said, the wagon on the left is a prototype, so it doesn't look as good as the one on the right. However, you can see that they both function as intended, and the 3 magnet setup is really set up for children, or for those people who don't have good motor skills. It gives you that bigger area of uncoupling so that you can achieve consistent uncoupling with the system there. Obviously, if the top of the magnet there was also painted a bright colour, it would be very easy to see for anyone. But as noted before, the top strip is removable, so you can set up whatever you like there. So you can see there's consistency there. Now, if you want to improve the look of it, and if you are running DCC and have good motor skills, you can go down to 2 magnets, which I would prefer myself, and you'll see, I think you probably get better performance here because it's quite easy to judge the section. The uncoupling is just as good as it was before. However, if you overshoot, I suppose, you haven't got that second chance with the 3rd magnet, but it still works really well. So I guess that's my preferred option, and I'll have to have a think about that, which way I go. So you can see it's consistent all the way. It's good to make sure that your couplings are set up at the right height, so when the coupling hooks connect into the coupling bar that they don't pull up when you don't want them to. If your couplings aren't set at the right height, this will happen. But you can see these two are set up pretty well, so there's no problems when they're drawing the wagon back over the magnet. So that's it, folks. Now you may think, why in the heck do I persevere with this sort of system? And I think if you look at the magnets on the right there and the standard uncoupling ramp on the left, that's why I persevere with this system.